So, throughout this semester, if you've watched these videos regularly, you've seen the same format, right? A pithy greeting like this, followed by a funny gif that may or may not be appropriate for what I'm saying, due to the fact that my brain is kind of wired differently than most. Once you see that and I say something about it, I move to right space and continue through the introduction until we get to the 102 masterclass schedule, right down here on the right-hand side, about, halfway down. But wait, there's a switch up this week, folks. Hi, this is me. This week's schedule is all about oral presentations, and I think it's rather important that we just chat about the concept without bogging ourselves down in the material for this week. See, I've got a script. Don't get me wrong, it's just as fine as always, but I think that we can do a little bit better than just the idea of an oral presentation by just going over them quickly and focusing on the same sample that I made for you. Oh, right. You're probably wondering why I decided to rip the curtain back and kind of show myself this week, huh? Good question. I did it because you will have to decide if it's something that you are willing to do for your oral presentation, which is due on Sunday, April 28th, 2024, by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. There is no asking for extensions. There will be no accepting of excuses. And honestly, there's no exceptions either. So you got to get that stuff in. This semester literally ends at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Sunday, April 28th, 2024. And there is no day after, because once that time's over with, the class locks, nothing else gets submitted, and you then start crying and screaming and banging stuff, okay? So it doesn't really work, okay? This date was decided upon by people who make a lot more money than I do, have a lot more meetings than I do, and probably have real offices with thicker walls so they can't hear their neighbors yawning very loudly and annoyingly multiple times daily. True story. Okay. To say that I literally had no say in this is an understatement, because I literally had no say in this. Please make sure that you get your material in by Sunday, April 28th, 2024, by 11:59 p.m. Eastern. I'm giving you to the last second of the semester to submit this, so please, for the love of God Almighty and my sanity, get it in, okay? Now, in this presentation, you can turn on your camera like I've just done. See, I've got my stuff in the background. Like, I didn't hide anything. It's just, it is what it is. I have 2 young children, so, wait, there it is. Their stuff's there. Family games. Oh, there we go. Family games. My books and collectibles. Not very many collectibles, but still. They're all there. Oh, I forgot. My wife likes puzzling, so there's some puzzles right there. But anyway, I turned this on to kind of show you that it's not scary. You just do it. And I'm hoping for your presentation you choose to do more than just the talk over, the voiceover. I hope that you choose indeed to put a little bit of a window into who you are, because for an online class, I never ever see you. You guys can walk past me in the hallway and I have no idea who you are. So if you put a video up of yourself, at least I get to see who that person is, and that would be great, okay? So, I would love to see my students this semester, but this is purely your choice. I'm not going to force you to do it, but either way, I'll get to hear you at least. So at least I'll be able to hear your mellifluous voice, and life will be good. So, now that we're back to normal, what are you going to be presenting? Well, we discussed it last week, but let me tell you again that it's a smart idea to look through the announcement I sent last weekend and go back through the presentation material that was there for week 14. Okay, all of this is here, including the argumentative speech overview, which gives you the requirements. That would be 5 to 8 minutes long. Anything less than 5 or over 8 will lose you points. Look for 10 slides minimum, okay? You're going to be using a digital format like PowerPoint or Google Slides or Canva or Prezi, or the equivalent software. It must hit on the 5 bulleted points brought up in the requirements that you could find, again, here or in here. And I just want you to do that because, honestly, it's going to illustrate the scope of your research that you did for that paper. So now that we've discussed all that, let's go through the promised PowerPoint sample I talked to you about before we go over this. I'm going to go through this PowerPoint twice for a reason. The first time, I'm just showing you what it looks like as a presentation. The second time, I want you to look at me as I put the hood up and show you the engine, okay? I promise the first spin through will be only a couple of minutes, whereas the second one will be a little bit longer, okay? We'll talk about specifics then. So, this is what the presentation would look like. I'm going to give you my title here, which should illustrate my topic. My student name here, if anybody knows anything about hacking and computer terrorism and things like that, you've probably heard the name Kevin Mitnick. If not, look it up. It's kind of interesting. And then, of course, we have just the prototypical author's block. We have what department you wrote it for, the school that you wrote it for, the class. This is a typo. It should be composition 2. And then your teacher. That's me. Okay? I also put his name up here instead of mine because William Christopher, you might get confused as to which goes where. In any case, once we start, we end up going through the PowerPoint. And as you can see, I have things coming up at slower motion, so I can talk about them and bring it up, and then each of these can go backwards and forwards depending on how you're doing it. And I picked a design that's supposed to look like a circuit board. So if I go back to this, you can see the outlines, and you can see the green. And if you've ever seen a circuit board, that's what it looks like. Since I'm a dork, that's what it kind of feels like. Okay? And then we keep going, and we notice that we have yet one more picture that doesn't really do anything. It just sits there, which is fine and dandy and fine. And we have our What's So Important slide, and we're bringing up our ideas and kind of introducing ourselves. We continue to keep going, and you can see how the font here is really small. It's not necessarily the smartest idea. I did this to show you that things can be wrong. So you might want to blow this font up to make it look easier for the audience to read. Then we get to our thesis slide, and we have another picture, and so forth. But as you can see, I have everything coming up. We have in-text citations here, Miller 2022, state-sponsored attacks, no date, ND. If you do use outside material, you must cite it. Anytime you have a statistic or a date, I would cite it, okay? And then here's another one down here, Burns et al., okay? Then, we have our first animation here. We have our cyber terrorism ninja spinning up into the world. So that's kind of interesting. It breaks the monotony of just text. So as you can see, we're in the research recaps. Here's my first slide for the argument, second slide for the argument. We're in the counter argument here, and we go into the rebuttal. Now, some of you might have 3 slides. Some of you might have 6. It doesn't matter as long as you're illustrating the argument itself. Then, once we're through that, we get into my favorite slide, the interesting results of my research, showing me that, you actually learned something or found out something or were pissed off by something. That works too. By the way, this movie was terrible but awesome at the same time. One of my absolute favorite movies from the 90s. And yes, in case you're wondering, this is a very young Angelina Jolie with her very first husband, Johnny Lee Miller. See, I'm a giver. Then we have our overall summary slide just to kind of show you what the presentation was about. And then finally, we have our almighty any questions slide. At this point, since you're doing this online, you might want to put your email address up there or something. If somebody has a question, they can always email you. I have never once seen anybody do that, but hey, you do you. Then, of course, we have our references slide. You should have at least 1, if not 2 or 3. Do not just copy and paste your references from your paper. Only use references that you are using within the paper, the presentation itself. So you might have 15 references on your paper, but you only use 5 of them in your presentation. Great. You're only going to have 5 references, okay? And once we get done that, we are done. All right. So now that we are done that, let me show you what we have here. So as you can see, I have these notes down here at the very bottom of every slide. If you download this PowerPoint presentation, sorry, my brain's locking up, and to your computer and do not see the notes, look at the bottom of the page. If it's still not there, click on View up here, and then right here you will see Notes. You can see it turn off and turn on depending on how you clicked it. So make sure that you have your notes activated, okay? As we move through the presentation, try to use the first page that we reviewed last week, and I showed you again today, Argumentative Research Speech Overview, and remind yourself of the necessary bullet points that you have to hit. As you can see here, I sort of mixed and matched mine. I put a little bit on this slide, a little bit on that slide. You know, hey, it works. I went back and forth. As long as all the ideas are there, I will be able to work the necessary information into the expected organization of the presentation itself. Remember, just follow the paper's organization to display everything. Okay? So here, we start off with our title slide. This is where you're going to introduce yourself. Hi, my name is John Jones. Great, fantastic. Explain to me who you are, okay? And then in here, you're going to give me, as you can see here, the topic. Okay, tell me exactly what your overall topic is. And then you're going to kind of introduce your ethos here. Why are you so important to be able to explain this? Maybe it's because you picked a topic that you are very well versed in. Maybe it's because it's part of your major. Maybe it's a job that you want to do later. Any of that works, but just explain yourself here. What did I want to discover? These are the 3 research questions that you're going to go back to your very first assignment in Unit 3, which is building research questions, and pluck them out. Put them here, and maybe you can explain to me why you chose each research question. Okay? Then your thesis slide. Tell me exactly what the argument is and which side you fell on. Okay? That's fantastic. Once we go in here, again, we have the research recap. And you might want to use 1 slide per claim. You might be like me and put like 2 or 3 on one and then 1 on another, because I had 4, I think. So that works perfectly fine as well. Then we have our counter argument, which is going to be complete, right? We have our 2 counter argument points in a single slide, and then we have 2 rebuttal points on a single slide. So at this point, we're on slide 9. So we're already in great shape. Then we have the interesting results. Again, what did you find that surprised you? What did you find that upset you or that made you excited? What did you find that you didn't know about, or maybe you thought you knew about and you were wrong? All of this is really helpful to explain kind of where things are, okay? Then we have our summary slide, just to make sure that your reader understands, your audience understands where we were to begin with, okay? The almighty any questions slide, once again. And you can provide an email address if you'd like. Just simply tell people to reach you. Otherwise, you are just showing the audience that you're not afraid of the questions, and you'll try your best to answer them. Once you display that, you just show the sources that you use within the presentation, like this, and you're done. Again, let me remind you about these references. Only list the sources that you use in your presentation. They will be the same sources used in your paper, but you might not use all of them in both. Only reflect those you did use. And if you found additional sources for infographics or things like that, you have to cite them to make sure that they weren't actually in your paper. Does all that make sense? If not, go back and review it. If it still doesn't make sense, email me as soon as possible so I can help. Now, the documents they have us reviewing for the week aren't necessarily the most helpful across the board. Now, you can review Conclusions Matter, like here. But we talked about this as you were writing your actual paper. Okay? It's the same stuff. You can go back here and click on Developing Presentation Skills. But honestly, all they've done for you is give you a bunch of videos to watch. And honestly, if you feel that they're helpful, then great. But to be honest, you probably get more out of my videos each week in seeing how I tried to engage you. I'm not saying I'm amazing, but you can see the delivery, the visuals, the overall presentation. It's the same thing. Yeah. A little bit obvious and on the nose, huh? Because the next thing we're going to talk about is effective visual aids, and they're really helpful links to show you how to set up your PowerPoint. They're under PowerPoint presentation skills. It's not a bad page. I mean, yes, there's another video. Here are the basics, fantastic. Here's some visual aids that you can use, great. And here's the PowerPoint presentation skills. Here's how you record a presentation on PowerPoint. Here's how to record a voiceover. I actually use Screencast-O-Matic. I like that quite a bit. So I actually bought the yearly subscription, which means no watermarks and very long videos. You don't need that. You just need a 5 to 8 minute video, which will be perfect. You can also use PowerPoint's new recording technology, so you may not even need Screencast-O-Matic if it makes you feel better. Look to these tutorials, not tutors, tutorials to help you. And finally, using technology, right? So using technology to present information, right there. Well, this is probably the most helpful page of the entire semester. It shows you what to do with the Microsoft suite of programs as well as the Google suite. Microsoft suite, Google suite. So it provides links to image depositories and also lists out some screencasting pages. For those people who are considering themselves to be technologically lacking, this page is definitely one to pay attention to. Okay? And now, my friends, we have one final thing to review. So we have the final presentation of the semester. Remember, it is due by Sunday, April 28th, 2024, by 11:59 p.m. Eastern. There is no next day submission because the semester ends on Sunday, April 28th, 2024, by 11:59 p.m. Eastern. Game over, man. Game over. So here's the final submission. Get there, obviously, by clicking this link here. Takes you right to here. If you don't want to go back through all the previous documents, the 5 main bulleted points that you need to cover are right here under Structure and Content. Okay? Be sure to include all of the information. If I were you, I'd review the rubric, which is right down... Where is it? I think I sped past it. There it is, right above it. I review the rubric as well, okay? So please make sure you do that. Get yourself an idea of how you'll be graded. You know, it's a really smart plan. And that's it, my friends. It's a long semester and you made it to the end. For probably all of you, this is the last English class you'll have to take. For a few of you who are looking at English 122 or 124, well, I don't really teach them. So you're in luck. Thanks again for all the time you spent this semester trying your best. Those of you who put a lot of effort into your submissions, it made my life easier. Better papers are easier to grade after all. Have a great summer. Good luck in your future courses. And I can't wait to see each and every one of you walk across the stage at graduation. See ya.